The single arm plate loaded rows is an excellent priming exercise as you can really isolate one lat at a time. The first thing you'll notice is on this device, Jay is able to get an element of supination from the rotation in the handle here. If you have access to a pulling machine which has a rotational handle, we'd strongly recommend this as it allows for freedom of movement in the wrist and the elbow. However, if you don't, we'd strongly recommend getting a D handle and attaching it and looping it over the fixed machine. There's absolutely no problem in using a handle where your wrist is in a fixed position. However, be aware that as you go further into external rotation of the shoulder and drop the elbow back, your wrist will want to supinate naturally. If you will look at the cues that Jay's doing again here, Jay's looking to allow his shoulder blade to stay retracted, but to the point where it can protract forward at the same time. So in other words, he's keeping his upper trap out of the movement and using the mid to lower traps to keep the scapula stable. As he's going into the contraction, he's driving the elbow into the rib cage and leaning into the movement to get the lat as short as possible. In the double handle variation, it's very important to think where the elbows are going in order to change the emphasis on the muscles that you're using. In this motion, Jay's looking to really target the lats and mid to lower trap fibers. And when he's doing this, he's looking to scrape the elbows along the floor and really drive the elbows down whilst going from a slightly pronated to a neutral, slightly supinated position upon the contraction. There's also an element of thoracic extension and an extension as you come up. So he's going into thoracic flexion as he goes forward just slightly and then into extension to really squeeze the upper back. If you change the orientation of the elbows as shown in the slight adjustment that Jay makes here, having the elbows higher is going to take the emphasis slightly away from the lats and more into the upper back. So if you'd like to target the upper back fibers and make this an upper back exercise, go into a more pronated grip at the hand and drive the elbows out wide to the side, focusing more on the movement of the scapula rather than the elbows where you're looking to pull the scapula around the body and more to the midline of the spine. The final variation is a setup change where Jay's sitting further back onto the seat. Now to do this and get adequate stability, you may need to push off something, which is why using the wall here would be recommendable. If you don't have access to this in the gym, you're probably better off with the feet further forward position. Also, if you have lower back pain where impingement in the lower back, we'd recommend not using this exercise. However, this variation is so you can target the upper back, the back in a more lengthened position. Again, as we can see here, the orientation of the elbows is going to impact where we hit. So the upper back in a lengthened position for the elbows going wide with a pronated grip as shown here. And you can change it to lat focused in a lengthened position by scraping the elbows along the floor, going from neutral to ever so slightly supinated in this position.